Welcome to the Healthiest Tech Talks, where we're talking about some of the biggest challenges facing healthcare organizations today and how technology can transform the way we work so that patients receive better care. I'm your host, Natalie Tollefson, Senior Director of Customer Success at Optimum Healthcare IT. Let's dive in. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our fourth episode of Healthy as Tech. I can't believe it's our fourth episode. I've been having such a blast, and I hope that you guys get a lot out of today's discussion. We have an awesome guest today, Danny Runyon, who is a solution consultant for employee experience at ServiceNow. And, if you're viewing us today and you currently use ServiceNow, or maybe you've heard of it and are familiar with it, you probably are picking up on the fact that it is a tech platform that is a force to be reckoned with. There is so much power behind it. And most of my clients, they are still discovering new ways to leverage this technology. And so we're very excited to talk about how we can do that in healthcare today for employee experience. So Danny, why don't I kick it off to you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Happily. Thanks so much, Natalie. So, as you already said, my name is Danny Runyon. I'm a solution consultant with ServiceNow. I have responsibilities of working with organizations to get as much value as they can out of transforming their employee experience with ServiceNow. I work directly in the healthcare BU, and I specifically focus on employee workflows, which has been on the leading edge of all things Gen AI related, because the main focus is really to drive efficiencies and better experiences for employees. So, on a personal note, and keeping in line with the theme of healthy as tech, my exercise of choice is to ride my Peloton bike. My favorite instructors are Alex Toussaint and Emma Lovewell. So I appreciate you having me here today. I'm excited to discuss how we can use technology to make work a better place for healthcare employees.
That's awesome. I happen to be a big fan of Alex and Emma, so I love that we have that in common. That's amazing. Thanks, Danny. So let's jump in. I'm so excited about this topic, and it's actually very near and dear to my heart because, Danny, as you probably know, I have a background in healthcare as an HR practitioner. I've been working with physicians and advanced providers for over a decade. Anything from managing HR systems to employee relations to onboarding and offboarding to wellness programs for providers. And so just thinking about my own experience in this area and seeing how the transformation of what it means to serve our healthcare employees, especially those on the front line, it's been revolutionary to see how ServiceNow has played a role in that. So very exciting, very important topics here. Danny, I was just coming across a couple of studies recently. I like to reference data in these episodes because it really just drives some of these challenges home. A McKinsey study reported that 52% of nurses reported that they didn't feel valued by their organization, and that was one of the top reasons they left. And another study by Connect RN said 83% of nurses said they felt under-recognized as frontline workers. And so it bothers me because obviously we value our providers and they do so much to serve our communities, but I still see healthcare organizations grappling with how do we deliver an experience and get them engaged and being more productive in their jobs so that they do feel valued. So it's a big topic. And Danny, you talk to HR leaders in healthcare day in and day out as well. I mean, what kind of things are you hearing from them?
Yeah, the main challenges I'm hearing from organizations are exactly what you outlined. Employees are leaving organizations because they don't feel cared for, or there's being too much asked of them, right?
Mm,
When there's not an internal culture that allows caregivers to focus on what they do best, and that's care for patients. Caregivers don't have much time, and when organizations turn the technology landscape into an overcrowded kitchen drawer, it's hard to find what you're looking for. So but if I could boil these issues down really into three main challenges, it's one, the provider experience is paramount. It's important, but it's lacking today.
Mhm.
HR teams are being asked to do more with less, and they need to build a healthy culture so that way their providers feel valued, right? And then, oh, by the way, to add to the pressure of all these challenges, generative AI is coming on board, right? And organizations are asking, how are you using Gen AI and how are you using it responsibly and safely? And so there's just a lot going on right
Yeah.
now. So I'm excited we're talking about this today.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking with a CIO, this was probably 2 weeks ago or so, who was saying that he was, experimenting with Gen AI, and this was a healthcare organization, and he was basically asking all the different departments to just, experiment, like, see where you can use it, and kind of leaving it to themselves to figure out where you can gain efficiencies. And, HR is focused on the people, right? We're not focused all the time in the tools. A lot of times tools can be a barrier. So I just found that interesting to your last point, Danny, because I imagine that a lot of HR leaders and teams are probably, maybe they're struggling with that. Maybe their CIOs
Hmm.
are saying, hey, figure out how to incorporate this because this is part of our strategy. But they're looking for that guidance, right?
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
Well, good. So you highlighted three challenges, the provider experience and caregiver experience being paramount, but often lacking, and HR teams having to do more with less resources, less time, and then thirdly, the importance of culture. And it's funny because I was looking at the registration list for this webinar, and I saw a lot of job titles that were like, employee engagement or employee retention, or they were very geared towards this topic. So clearly, healthcare organizations are investing in this. Right? They care about it. They want to get it right. And that's why I appreciate everybody who's here today. So let's dive in. Let's dive into that first one, provider or caregiver experience. You know, in my experience, Danny, and maybe others who are viewing us today have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Which in a nutshell breaks down employee needs into a pyramid, and it says that those basic needs of safety and just those basic needs of an employee getting paid on time, right, with the right amount,
Yeah.
getting their family taken care of with the right benefits and programs. The HR teams need to get that right, and they need to do it consistently, they need to do it compassionately and effectively. And then from there we can build upon those other needs, like, with culture and professional development and mental and emotional health, right? And so I want our viewers to keep that in mind as they see what we're going to show them today, and how we're talking about this, because I do think that's where experience starts. Let's get the basics down. Onboarding, offboarding, transitioning throughout the organization, taking a personal leave or a parental leave. Sometimes those experiences can be really clunky and difficult, and that is directly affecting these caregivers at the end of the day. So Danny, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And I'd even love for you to show us
Yeah.
how ServiceNow addresses that from a product perspective, especially using Gen AI.
I would love to, right? And so what I would love to do here is introduce you to ServiceNow as a digital front door, right? Not always the one stop shop, but the one start shop. To have a great experience, I need to have personalized communications targeted directly to me. That's part of it. That's how we instill
Mm.
culture. But I also need to find what I'm looking for. I need this to be a system of action. So that way, if I need help across anything related to HR, or I need help across our IT, or maybe I need a legal request, I need to be able to come here and find what I'm looking for across all of the various departments of support in one place. If I'm going to have a great experience, I need it to be a system of action for me as well. I need to be able to take action on tasks and approvals, not only things that are coming maybe from ServiceNow or an HR system that we can pull in here, but maybe from other third party systems, maybe an expense system here, to have this be a system of action. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in, Danny, because what we're looking at is essentially a portal, right? It's like the employee portal. for an organization. But we know that there's so many other systems involved, right? Like you mentioned Concur in there. So I imagine a lot of our viewers right now are thinking, well, I already got Workday, or I already got Oracle or Success Factors. Why do I need this? Can you just
Yeah.
spend a minute and talk a little bit about why this is essential in addition to those other core platforms?
Absolutely, and it makes a ton of sense. My background was I spent a decade at Oracle beforehand, and the value drivers of a single platform are enormous, and your single data repository. The challenges I found there is that it never came to be in fruition. There were always lots of systems across the enterprise, right? It's not just an HR system that I need as an employee. I also need IT systems. I also need to know where to go for a badge. I also need to know where to go for facilities, right? I need one place to go through the enterprise, not just necessarily my HR needs.
Yeah, that's great. I just want to really drive that home because, when you say system of action, it's like, yeah, it's where our caregivers are going to come and get work done. But the way that ServiceNow can integrate and make that seamless experience with all those other really important systems in the background, it all comes together.
Yeah. And so, what you would expect on a page like this, on a portal, would be tasks and systems and communications targeted for me. The organization pushing out maybe company news or driving our company culture here through news articles. Maybe I need to come here because I need to reserve a conference room, right? We have more hoteling queues for our administration staff, and we want to reserve a spot, a space. Maybe I do want to drive culture, and we're going to highlight our employee spotlight right here on our homepage. So it's a great way that healthcare organizations can call out those great caregivers that are going above and beyond. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about AI and how, in the same way that Amazon knows who I am and what I should be buying next, ServiceNow knows a lot about you and what you should be clicking on and what's going to be relevant for you in your role. Then there's going to be capabilities that bring your employees back, maybe videos or upcoming events or the status of your IT systems, right? So, what are those areas that bring your employees back day to day? And then how can we be a launching off point into those other systems of record across the enterprise?
Mm.
So it's really a great portal of a very flexible system for what you would expect as a landing page across the enterprise.
Yeah, something that came to mind as you were going through that, I happen to be a firm believer in, when it comes to adoption, right, of new tools. And trust me, I've I've been there, I've rolled out HR systems that have not been adopted. And I've also, been part of more successful implementations on the other side. But what stands out to me is I think employees are going to use what's delivering value,
Mhm.
right? If they
Yep.
are benefiting from this new tool or this, whatever it is, and it's a great experience, then they're going to keep coming back. And that's really the goal here. This entire portal is so configurable and it's very personalized. And so, Danny, maybe you can talk a little bit about how is ServiceNow able to tailor that experience?
Yeah, so the way that we do that is everybody who logs in is going to have a profile about them. And like we've mentioned, we're not going to be the system of record for some of this information. We're going to be the system of action. So we'll pull this from maybe your HR system of record, where ServiceNow offers delivered integrations with the Oracles of the world, with the Workdays of the world, to populate things like her job title, her department. So that way we can have a personalized experience and showcase the right information to her. We'll pull in things like personal details. So wouldn't it be great if we could target a communicated message for her on her date of birth or on her work anniversary, or when she calls in and gets help from HR and support, we understand who her contacts are because we have that information about you. And so that's how we deliver this personalized experiences through this profile of knowing who you are and what's relevant for you.
Got it. And so as an HR person, I'm thinking, okay, personal data, I got to be really careful about that. Danny, can you reassure us about security really quick?
Yeah. Yeah. So ServiceNow as a secure platform, we could talk for probably a whole hour just about ServiceNow, being trusted as a cloud provider with some of the most sensitive data on the planet. Within the realm of ServiceNow, the HR specific module is a scoped app. So it's a walled off area. So that means that the rest of ServiceNow people at your organization don't have access to it. It's secured and locked down to only the right HR people. And then even from within that, we lock it down through centers of excellence. So that way you can only see the right information. So if you're a payroll representative versus a benefits representative, you can only see the cases and the information that's relevant and pertinent to you in your role. So
Yeah.
it's an onion of security, and there's multiple different layers of how we're locking that down.
I love it. Getting rid of the noise, keeping data secure. That's really, really important. So,
That's exactly
well,
it.
go ahead, Danny. Show us what else you got when it comes to experience.
Yeah. So now that I've introduced you to Maria, right, a nursing manager in the emergency department, she comes here, she has a great experience, but I have some great news for you. Maria's having a baby, right? And so she's scratching her head trying to figure out, where does she go? How does she communicate with with her organization? What are the policies like? How much time can she take off? She has a lot of questions. So she can come out here and simply ask the question about parental leave. And her organization has done a really nice job for her of a lot of different resources that are available for her across FAQs and policies and manager guides and how to prepare for it. And there's lots and lots and lots of great information out there. So her organization has done a good job of being able to answer every question that she has. So this is where the hero of the day becomes generative AI. This is where our large language model serves up an answer for her based upon all of the attributes that you have and your policies and your procedures. Now LLM, our generative AI says, well, actually, we do have maternity costs, and it's going to last 4 months with pay and 2 months without pay. So at the end of the day, there's lots of good resources, but we're using Gen AI to give her a better experience of what she's searching for.
I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking about even my own experience when I search something in Google or Siri or whatever. Where consumers are already having this kind of functionality just with their iPhones, and searching basic questions. So I love that we're able to bring that into the workplace now, using that company's own information that is already tailored to that employee. It's pretty cool.
That's exactly it. So at this point, though, that answer didn't fully give her everything she needed. So what she does is she goes into a specialized topic area around something like parental leave of absence or a microsite that serves up to her more information about this workflow, right? First, we're going to be getting started. Then we'll move to awaiting approval. Then you'll go to the planning phase, and then you're going to be out on leave, and then you'll come back to work. And here's all of the things that you need to know. And so she doesn't have to scour through an article to read the documentation and trying to figure it out. She can watch videos. She can do all these sorts of quick tasks. If she wants to kick off a request, she can do that directly from ServiceNow. Again, with ServiceNow being that system of action for you. So she doesn't need to remember, if I want to submit a parental leave of absence request, do I do that in an HR system? Do I do that in my outsourced benefits system? Where do I go? Well,
Hmm.
ServiceNow can be that front door for you to say, well, actually, we're going on a parental leave of absence. Here are the dates of where we're going to be kicking that off and when I'll be coming back, and we can submit this from there. I think of this similar to when I'm buying something on Amazon, right? I go out and I just simply buy what I'm looking for, and I'm shielded from the complexity of who's going to be fulfilling it, all the shipping details, the payment details. There's a lot of complexities that happen there. As an employee, I just want a simplified process in the same way that I get a simplified buying process
Yeah.
with Amazon. So that's really how easy it can be to initiate something like this.
Yeah, it's like what to expect when you're expecting, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But in the workplace, it's great.
That's exactly it. So at the end of the day, Maria submits this request and she's served up with an end to end workflow of what needs to expect throughout this process. Okay, so first thing, she's going to be requesting it and then preparing for leave, and then she'll be on leave and she'll be coming back. And so there's all these different workflow stages with tasks that come up at the right time. And, obviously there's lots of feedback to figure out how are we doing as a part of this process, take some surveys, have some pulse feedback so that way we understand in the moment, what's your sentiment? How is your experience going with something like this as a parental leave of absence experience? So the
And I
value here
want
is
to
just
pause.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to pause really quick because you just mentioned and you showed us a snippet of quick pulse surveys, like the emoji. I was just at Amazon or at Whole Foods yesterday returning an Amazon package, and it was like really fast. And then it popped up an emoji and it said, "How is your experience?" Like sad, kind of or happy. And I just clicked the button and I'm done. Like that's the level that ServiceNow's bringing to HR teams and workplace teams now, right? Is for your ability to quickly get sentiments in the flow of whatever that user is doing, and then make action plans from that, analyze those trends. And I just think that I want to call that out, because again, I saw a lot of job titles in here about engagement and experience and workforce analytics and HR technology. And that used to be my world, and that's definitely something that we care about.
Yeah, I love it. So tying in with this storyline, Maria's excited about her leave, but there's a plot twist, right? Instead of going out on leave in a couple of weeks, she needs to change her date to today because maybe she's being induced or something happened and she needs to change it. So again, she's scratching her head trying to figure out, do I call somebody? Do I email? Where do I go for this? But she thinks back to her personal life, right? When she gets the wrong delivery from Amazon and needs to return it, she can do that all through a chatbot. And so
Mhm.
she says, maybe I can do something like that right from here and just ask the chatbot, I need to change the start. I need to change the start date on my maternity leave. And so what our large language model does is it knows who you are, what you have going on, your open requests. It can find your specific maternity leave and just say, hey, is what you need to do change the start date? Yes, it sure is. Okay, so it may ask you a couple of questions in the same way that any consumer grade app is going to start to ask you some questions of what would you like to be the new start date? We'll just say that we're going to change it to today. And then it may ask you things like, why do you need to do that? I am being Okay. Enter in some of that personal health information, Natalie, that we talked about it being so um, sensitive information that needs to be secured and locked down. Okay. So
Yeah.
there's really a lot of value in doing this, of simplifying the experience. There's a lot of complexity that happens afterwards, changing the due dates on tasks and changing the start dates and a whole lot that happens, but it's very easy for Maria to go out and submit this.
And this is configurable, right? I mean, a lot of the basis of the logic is also coming from how the company has designed these workflows. And so I want to call out that, especially with these Gen AI tools and with really a lot of the virtual agent chatbot functionality, as a ServiceNow partner, Optimum is also helping our customers navigate that maturity process and refining and configuring and maturing as we're observing how that experience transpires. So
That's exactly it. Yeah, so I just wanted to recap what we talked about. We were focused on a great experience. You saw that Maria came to a personalized portal. She had access to the right information. You saw her being able to search and Gen AI helping answer those questions and journeys. I mean, that was really what we wanted to focus on, is just a simple experience for Maria
I
here.
love it. I love it. True story. I was getting ready to go on maternity leave with my fourth child a few years ago. And the day that my leave was about to start, um, I ended up going into labor. My water started breaking. So that's definitely a real scenario that happens. And, as an employee, you want to know exactly where to go to get that taken care of. So
Exactly.
um,
I
thanks
love
for
it.
sharing that. Awesome. So yeah, provider experience is paramount. I think you wrapped that up really well. Just giving that more consumer grade, digital, fast experience to meet our caregivers' needs. So important.
Mhm.
Um, Now let's talk about the second one you mentioned, right? Which is HR teams are being asked to do more with less. And again, this is something I've experienced firsthand, because the work, as you continue to hire more and you're trying to offer more programs to your employees, that work piles up, and the complexity within the healthcare environment with all the regulations and everything that comes with it, right? Hiring more staff isn't always a luxury that HR leaders have. So that productivity, that efficiency is so key. And I imagine a lot of the HR leaders that are in this call are wondering how to forecast that out, right? Like, how can they gain those efficiencies without having to hire more headcount? So, Danny, can you kind of walk us through the back end of that? Like, what is that like for the agent, or for that shared services team member? and where is Gen AI driving efficiencies?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. So we'll pick up with the same storyline. So Maria's heading into the hospital and she has a question along the way. She doesn't have the couple of more weeks to get all of her questions answered. And she can continue this conversation with the chatbot to say, hey, are maternity costs covered with my benefits? Right. She needs to understand some of the financial implications here of going in. And so this is where Gen AI can pick that up and start to answer her question. Okay. It's saying, well, actually, there's some documents out there that's going to say, here's what this is, right? Your benefits will stay the same. So it's attempting to do some case deflection to allow your agents to do more with less. In this case, unfortunately, that didn't answer Maria's question. And so she wants to maybe see a little bit more results of where this is. And the answer she's looking for actually sits in our maternity leave policy. Your organization has done a really nice job of case deflection and putting the answers that she's looking for out there. So again, two attempts at trying to take any case into no case to support your case deflection.
Mm.
However, we always need that empathetic approach, right? Not everybody wants to read the information. They always want to chat with somebody. And so very easily, Maria can just be handed off to say, I want to chat with a live agent. Enter from stage right, Harry, our HR agent, who's diligently working away on all of his other HR cases that are out there. He sees a chat that comes in from Maria and he can start to work on this right away and deliver up a great experience for her. Now, since he's getting these sorts of questions all day long, it's really helpful for Gen AI to start to summarize this for him. He's quickly up to speed seeing that Maria talked to our virtual agent and asking about maternity cost being covered, right? We tried to provide some responses and now here we are. Can you provide some help? Let me pause there for a moment here, Natalie. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, this is great because, again, I just remember fielding all of my leave requests via email. Like seriously, and it's sometimes they fall through the cracks and it's hard to track. And I just remember my docs would start to refer to our HR inbox as the black hole because they would just get lost. So, it resonates with me, and I love the idea of like, let's not just serve our employees and our caregivers with a great experience. Let's do the same thing for our HR staff. For these people that are really dedicated to supporting people. Let's make it easy for them to get a lot of the administrative work done. And I want to add too, something that's kind of bothering me a little bit is as an HR leader myself, I'm also thinking about, well, wait a minute. We're all about culture here. We're all about people and relationships. I mean, I used to have my docs, they had me on speed dial, right? Because they knew me. They knew that I was going to be able to help them. But then what happened is when my role kept changing or when my role would shift or my priorities were different, they would still call me. So it's like, I want to really hone in on this. There's a time and a place to pick up the phone, or to send a personal note to our employee, to our nurse that's going on maternity leave, and to have that conversation of, hey, how can I support you right now? Right? Like, what is there anything that you need? And I think you can still do that, even if you have all of this technology that is making the experience fast and efficient and getting the data into the system when it needs to get into the system. It's actually freeing up HR teams and engagement teams with the ability to be more thoughtful, right? To think about, okay, when in this journey should we have one of our COE leaders pick up the phone and call that employee, or the HRBP? Can we serve them up with some prompts where they can make that personal touch? It's those moments that matter. So I just want to mention that. And I hope that's resonating with folks because there's a balance there between the technology and then that personal white glove touch that I think a lot of HR teams in healthcare still want to be able to deliver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with ServiceNow, we can use some of the technology to further make those more connected experiences.
Yeah.
Right. So as your HR personnel can see some of this information, he can quickly respond back to her and just say, "Hi, Maria. I see you have questions about your upcoming maternity costs.
Yeah.
How can I help?" So he's quickly able to be empathetic because the technology is pointing him in the right direction.
Yep. It's making it easier for him to communicate and know what her needs are. Right.
Exactly.
I love it. Love it.
I'm going to flash back over here to Maria, and she sees this nice communication coming in from Harry and he wants to know how he can help. Well, she's just going to say, how much is labor and going to cost? Okay. And so he knows that she has already tried to do some self service. So he's not going to send her a link to the article. He's actually going to go do some research on her behalf.
Hmm.
So that's where we can look into some of the policy information and do some of the digging on behalf of your employees. Okay, so this might be one of those things where there's some research that has to happen. You need to roll up your sleeves and actually pull up the plan details, as Harry's doing here. And he knows that she has a question about labor and delivery charges. How much is it going to cost? And so he can see the answer to her question right here. It's going to cost $500 and then a 20% co-insurance there afterwards. So he can quickly go back and respond to her with exactly that information. So $500 and then 20% 20% co-insurance. Okay, so she's very easily able to get an
Mm.
answer to her question, have a good experience, and just say, "That's perfect. Thanks so much." Okay, and he says, "Of course, happy to help," just like all of us are. And so with that, he's just able to end this chat, end this interaction, and again, where Gen AI is going to serve up some suggestions for him. Okay, so he didn't have to type in some of the short description, but your HR teams will need some of that later on for reporting or for audit purposes to go back to make sure
Right.
that this was tracked, right? Or what about a chat summarization? So that way, our Gen AI can just actually tell you, here was the case, here's what happened, and now we can be a little bit more efficient going forward. So it's really helpful to see where Gen AI can drive some efficiencies for Harry.
That's really cool. And I'm also noticing that Harry is not swivel chairing between the benefits system and the SharePoint site and email so he can email his benefits person and all these different things. Like it's literally all in the HR agent workspace. And it's so amazing. It's like a dream come true for HR. Love it.
I love it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've hit two of our big points. Provider experience is paramount but lacking, not anymore with these solutions. Number two, HR teams asked to be doing more with less. Let's wrap it up with the third one, which is so important. It's about building culture and ultimately impacting engagement, retention, and patient care, right? We can't forget it's all about patient care.
Yeah.
So, Danny, what are some ways that ServiceNow, in partnership with a company that has a very caring leadership and HR organization, can build culture for the employees?
Yep. And that's perfect. And so that's where we come back to our digital front door. So you've seen this being a system of action, system of engagement. But now Maria returns from her maternity leave, and she had such a great experience in that labor and delivery room that now she wants to move from the emergency department over to being a labor and delivery nurse. Okay. And so luckily, her organization is outreaching to her saying, hey, we have a new career growth program. We want to be a career destination, and we want to give you the opportunity to build your career with us. And so it all starts here with an aspiration that will ultimately turn into a growth plan that she'll work with her manager into conversations back and forth and some learning and mentoring along the way where we can really help to care for those caregivers in their career journey. And obviously, AI is going to enter the picture here around suggestions for her based upon who she is, her role, and what are some of the aspirations that might be relevant for her. But this is where providing an empathetic kind of care for your caregivers in their career journey starts around the right spot.
Wow. I mean, I've also seen in a lot of the same surveys that I referenced before that lack of career growth is a big reason why employees might leave. If they don't see the vision for their future and feel excited about that. So the fact that we now in the same place, digital front door, as you referred to it, that's delivering value for day-to-day needs, right? We're also serving up a vision for their career. I just think that's huge. It's game changing.
Yep. Yeah, give your employees one place to go for all of their career needs. So, in this case, she has an aspiration that she wants to move towards a new role. Like I mentioned, she had such a great time as the in the nursing and delivery room that she wants to become the nursing manager for labor and delivery. So she can easily flag that as here's the role that I want to move towards. It's going to have a name and we can give it a description and some timelines behind this. So that way she can effectively build the right plan with her leader and drive towards the right direction. And this is where maybe she can say, who do you want this to be visible to? Just me and my manager, some of my specific peers, my network. So that way we can drive this forward. But that's really the first step is just submitting the right aspiration. And then you move into developing a growth plan and how you want to get there.
Can we talk about the manager for a minute? I
Yeah.
mean, how often are managers in healthcare feeling blinded or limited in their ability to understand where their employees are at? In my experience, the managers of the providers were also in patient care. Like they were also
Right.
providers. They were medical directors. They were, nursing leaders. And so like the fact that not only are we serving the employee with the ability to even share and put on, not paper, but put down somewhere where they want to go and explore that, you're also empowering those managers and those leaders to come alongside them and help them with the support to be successful.
Where ServiceNow helps with that is we deliver up one place for your leaders to go that we call Manager Hub, which is really designed to pull all of that information together and make it easy for your leaders to be productive. Obviously, it's going to be starting with AI, serving up what's recommended for you, right? Things like we have
Mm.
an upcoming career discussion with Emily. We should probably remind your team that we have a growth plan going on. Or, oh, by the way, some of your team members have birthdays today or work anniversaries. Wouldn't it be great if you could communicate with them to instill that culture of care on your team? Or things like what does your HR team want you to know as a leader, right? What are some of the guides that you need to be aware of and how is it tying into our company goals? So really it's just one place that we call Manager Hub at ServiceNow that allows you to be effective as a leader and drive the communication from that management role.
Wow, I'm just thinking about, a lot of HR teams are developing these programs, right? The L&D team, the culture team. Um, they're developing these amazing programs, but it can be frustrating when they exist, but then the employees are not and the managers are not aware of it.
Right.
Right? Like that's the most
Hmm.
heartbreaking thing. You pour your heart and your soul into these programs because you have this vision for your organization, but then they're not utilized. And so I want to call that out because again, when you drive everyone to this central location and you make it part of the fabric of how work gets done, right? Then you are able to evangelize the programs that your teams are developing. You're increasing ROI from that. You're seeing outcomes and results achieved that are part of your strategic plan. So very, very important, right, for these
Exactly.
organizations.
Yeah. Come to one place, understand the culture, what I need to be focused on. And at the same time, if I'm going to have a great experience, I need to get work done here as well. And so
Right.
where we're going to end this is with, Maria is alerted here that she's onboarding Nick. He's starting on Monday. And my goodness, he's at risk. He may not be able to start on time, right? If I don't have a nurse on the floor, what are we going to do? And so now, as a leader, I have insight into something like his onboarding journey or somebody getting transferred or somebody getting offboarded, where it's the same thing you saw earlier that it's broken down into different stages and processes and what needs to happen when. And you see accountability of who needs to be doing what and is it overdue or is it upcoming and what do I need to do? So it's really this system of action for a complex workflow like onboarding that I may need to have one place to go to. So this is why I wanted to end here was it really brings home the three things we were talking about is I have a great experience understanding what that onboarding process is like. It's driving efficiencies across maybe different systems and streamlining all of those workflows into one place. And obviously, AI is sitting right at the top, trying to tell me what I need to be doing next and what I need to be focused on that's relevant for me.
Yeah, true system of action. I was working with a client that they use Taleo for their onboarding, their recruiting and their onboarding, um, and and there was kind of this back and forth of like, well, we do that in Taleo, and we're like, well, you can do a lot of these things in ServiceNow, and we can integrate where necessary. And I think that that's such an important thing because a lot of teams are wondering about that. Like,
Hmm.
well, what do we do in the ATS or the HCM versus ServiceNow? And I want
Yeah.
folks to remember that you can have your systems of record and then you have your system of action, right? And you have your system where things get done and we can integrate where we need to integrate. But the whole idea is to create this type of experience where managers are not having to swivel chair and
Yep.
agents are not having to swivel chair. And you're just making it easier. And so that's something that Optimum helps a lot with is just kind of figuring out and creating that crawl, walk, run, right? That roadmap of like, how do you get from the siloed nature of processes that are more process focused than they are experience focused? And how do you transform that into what we're seeing today? So yeah, can you tell I'm a little passionate about
I can tell you're excited. And it's funny because onboarding is one of those words that the definition depends on who you ask, right? Each department has their own definition
right?
of what onboarding is. And so that's where we change the game is it's one place to go across the enterprise. It's not just HR or it's not just what does IT need. It's what is the facilities team and do you have your parking and do you have your badge and do you have your scrubs and do you have your fingerprinting? And it's all of these things coming together into one place. So
And
that's
can I
exactly it.
tell you, nobody wants to own it. No, I swear I see it all the time. No one wants to own onboarding. It's like, anyways, so we got to help our customers navigate the stakeholder expectations and okay, how do we bring it all together and adopt a shared vision? Because it is a complex process.
Hmm.
So anyways, I digress, but thank you, Danny. That was amazing. I get so fired up when I see what tools like ServiceNow can do. And that was fantastic. I bet some of our people are wondering like, okay, I love this. I want this. What do I do next? Danny, what are
Yeah.
some practical steps?
Where do we go from here? Yeah, I'd say I would encourage you to continue to explore, different employee experience solutions. The idea is just that it's something that's going to connect into your IT ecosystem, right? When you take a tool, technology like GenAI, it's only going to be as powerful as the data that it can access, right? And so by having your HR system, a system of record, on your same technology stack as your IT in your all your data, it just creates this treasure chest of information that Gen AI can help synthesize. So I'm biased, but I think ServiceNow is a great solution. We tend to call ourselves the platform of platforms, sitting on top of other applications to drive these workflows and drive these experiences across the enterprise. So we may not always be that system of record, but we're going to be that system of action to get work done. And Gen AI is going to help accelerate that motion to drive better experiences.
Got it.
Yep.
So choose the right solution. Check.
I mean, the other thing I would say is look for solutions and partners that are going to be healthcare specific. There's going to be hundreds of employee experience platforms out there. There's going to be lots of partners out there, but I would encourage you to focus your efforts on somebody who knows Optimum, and I think Optimum has just been a fantastic partner. Leveraging ServiceNow, all of the employee experience capabilities, with their deep expertise in healthcare, they're going to accelerate your time to value since they fully understand that persona, right? This is not a manufacturing persona. This isn't banking or retail, right? This is the needs of healthcare professionals are drastically different, and Optimum knows healthcare, right? So Optimum has been a trusted partner, and they can help shepherd you into this era of Gen AI.
Well, thanks for the name drop, Danny. That's awesome. No, seriously though, guys, Optimum, we are 100% healthcare specific. We have almost 300 healthcare provider customer organizations. So it's near and dear to all of our hearts. We really enjoy partnering with ServiceNow.
Yeah,
Well,
been great for
great. I cannot multitask, so I have not been looking at the chat. Scott, do we have any questions from the audience?
We do. And guys, that was amazing. Maria is the happiest post-labor person ever. And congratulations on that. Just a question about implementation.
Yep.
Natalie, it sounds like Optimum, kind of knows some of these use cases that are specific to healthcare. These kind of onboarding experience. We had a question from Carly about, how does that process look in creating something like this?
For onboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that Optimum will help with is we create a roadmap and we create a plan. And it's always going to start with number one, understanding your organization. So we really want to know what your processes look like today, whether or not you like them, whether or not they work. We want to understand them. We're going to understand what's important to you, but we're going to make sure that you lay a strong foundation, because I want to be clear and I want to be candid with everyone. Like, GenAI is not necessarily a set it and forget it thing. Like, some pieces of it are, because it's learning, but a lot of it is really going to require organizations to lay a strong foundation of content and process and clarity around, what that looks like. And then GenAI is going to drastically accelerate the value. So that's why you really need that partner. And we help you understand the dependencies, what it takes to lay that foundation, and then how you build from that in a realistic way. And then also, how do you bring your teams along with you, right? Because if you can build the best thing in the world, but if the people aren't adopting it, what's the point? So we got to incorporate that into your implementation strategy, because that's where you're going to get the value. And I'm happy to talk more about that offline, but that's just an overview of the approach.
That's great. That's great. And then coming back to this, this choosing a healthcare specific solution, there's a lot of security risks out there just in general, but when it comes to Gen AI, they seem to be heightened even more. So how does ServiceNow kind of protect against security and privacy? And then on the healthcare front, how are you all working to comply with certain regulations like HIPAA, for example?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So, a moment about that. The ServiceNow large language model, or LLM, right? It's a purpose-built LLM that's going to isolate your own customer data in your own instance, in your own environment. So, all of the prompts and responses that you saw there, none of that is available to other customers and anybody on any other organizations. You also have the ability to redact PII in your prompts by configuring something that's called sensitive data handling. And then you can also opt in and opt out of data sharing with ServiceNow. Okay, so you've got a lot of control in how you want to use this. The last thing that I would say is that ServiceNow is going to be, collecting information, cleansing it, and storing it in a very secure AI development environment for improvement. So you're going to have a lot of control over how your data is used in a secure fashion.
That's good. And I think that lends to another question and point that Carly brought up, which is how customizable are these Gen AI solutions that are being offered here, really to meet the needs and the processes of the organizations?
Yep. Yeah. So, from my perspective, and on Natalie, I'll let you jump in. Is think of this as some of a configuration versus customization, right? So, ServiceNow's Now Assist technology, it's the Gen AI solution to power these employee experiences, and it's all built on off-the-shelf Gen AI skills that are all configuration based. So you get away from painting yourself in the corner with any sort of customization. So you'll be able to use some of the out-of-the-box technologies and configure them to meet your needs for the way that you want to use them.
Yeah, and part of it too is learning, right? With any advanced technology, there has to be kind of that constant monitoring process and learning and helping train the technology, and also refining your data, refining your information, your content. And so it really requires a strategy where we're not just turning it on. But we are working with the technology and making sure that we are influencing it to meet the needs of our users.
That's great. Just out of curiosity, not just turning it on. It requires a strategy. How long does it typically take to begin to take the initial first steps, really to begin implementing Gen AI in HR processes?
That's a great question. And, people are going to hate this, but it depends. It really does depend on the customer and where they are at in their journey. If I'll give you, just to be real, if you don't have any knowledge content, or maybe all of it's out of date, which is a real scenario, a lot of places people get busy, then you might need to have kind of a prep phase, right? Like a phase 0, where you're really honing in on improving the quality of the information that you're going to leverage when it comes to serving up these experiences. So that's what we do. We kind of work with and assess where you're at in that journey. Optimum does have a very prescriptive methodology for how we help deliver Gen AI to an organization. And so we will walk you through that and make sure that you're building and, you have clarity, right, on what to expect, and can be part of a process that will deliver success.
Got it. Did you have anything to add on to that, Danny?
No, I think the only comment is just that Optimum is a great partner to help you along with that journey, to assess where you are today and help you get to those amazing experiences that you saw demonstrated today. So
Awesome. Yeah. Well, listen, great. My colleague Lindsay is going to drop in the chat here just some additional resources for everyone who's interested. Please do take time, check out our website at Optimum Healthcare IT. Our ServiceNow portion of our site has more information about all of our offerings. If you'd like to connect with Natalie, there is her LinkedIn. And if you'd like to connect with Danny, you have his LinkedIn as well. You can also see him on the Peloton track with Alex. And I'm not sure what time you usually go out with Alex, but we will be sure to look at you probably in the leaderboard. I imagine you're in the leaderboard.
I don't know about that.
Okay. Listen, Natalie, Danny, everyone who joined, thank you so much. This has been super educational, super helpful, super encouraging for someone who has not had the best HR experiences. And I'm sure that there's others out there who are also encouraged by these new capabilities, these new interfaces. So thank you very much for your time. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you right back here next month.
Okay. Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.